everyone a little part of your career journey a little bit. And then for some of you, if you got the chat not loading, I know there's a little bit of hiccup right now. We're working with the vendor. Mine's actually not loading. I think you hit the hide chat and you'd redo it and see, but I'm working on my end. But let's start with Manny and let's see what we can do with that.
Yeah, I'll vamp and buy everybody some time to figure out their technical difficulties. So I started my career at Marvel Comics 30 years ago. I was there for 6 years. I started in the publishing division, drawing, writing, illustrating, editing comics. I moved into the marketing division. Thereafter, designed toys, games, and promotional materials. Went from there to DC Comics, Archie Comics, and I started working at Nickelodeon on the first Rugrats movie. I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks. I ended up being there 12 years because it was just amazing. What an amazing time to be at Nickelodeon. It was just before the creation of SpongeBob and Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents and all that. And I was able to kind of bring the knowledge I gained at, with Marvel, DC, and Archie, and bring it into Nickelodeon and help develop their consumer products division and, employ things that they're still kind of using today. And I was in that division for about 6 years. And I moved to On Air when my boss got promoted. And then I was helping launch shows, develop original content for the channel. And I continued to work with the marketing team and still design toys and video games because as you could tell, I really love that stuff. Clearly, all that stuff behind me is things I really love. I went from there to Saatchi & Saatchi. Now I went to school for advertising, animation, illustration. But after dabbling in advertising in the 90s, I kind of backed out of it. The only reason I went to Saatchi & Saatchi is because they had the General Mills brands, Count Chocula, Frankenberry, the Trix Rabbit. And I really loved all their mascot characters. And I wanted to help bring them into more of an entertainment IP as opposed to just marketing IP. And I had a great time turning their characters into animated shorts, helping them build their style guides to kind of help license their materials, and basically turn them into more of an entertainment brand. I went from there back to Gray, where Hasbro became my client, and I got to work on Star Wars, Transformers, Paramount related stuff, Spider-Verse, Avengers. Again, all the things you see behind me are, trophies from my past victories and things that I love. And happened to meet Gary a few years ago over it was a short-term project for Illumination. It never came to fruition, but we really hit it off. I was explaining to him how I'm not a typical ad guy. And he was like, oh, no, I don't really like typical ad guys. I firmly believe all the same things you do about pop culture and how to reach and connect with people through character. And by the end of the conversation, Gary had hired me away from being a director on a new series that I had been tapped to direct. So, and that's how I ended up here.
I see that E22 and I and a couple others have the same error where we're getting, when we're posting, it's every other one. So one gets an error, the next one posts. So tech team, I know you're working on that. I know that we've been working on some stuff on this platform for post an animation studio. And I think will be a big catalyst for the stuff we do. We've put a lot of pieces down for what these characters sound like. When you think about characters over the last several months, of their backstories, we've got a kid's book in the work. We've got some other executions that we can't speak to that are coming intimately. Manny obviously worked feverishly and closely with our partners who made the animations that came with the QR codes of the toys. And we're just having a lot of fun and thought it'd be fun. Manny's been super head down, very busy. But I thought it would be fun to spend a little time with him and really just honestly looking for more fun ways to do Q&A, some more time, thinking of some new fun ideas. Thought of a good one this morning that you'll be seeing in the coming months of access, physical and digital, that are, sometimes above and beyond what we've done with the access token, sometimes incorporating the access token. So some fun stuff on that front, but want to do some Q&A. Daniel, I don't know how you want to structure this, but
sure.
I want to say Manny's a wonderful human being. I'm really enjoying working with him. And we're having some fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get some Q&A. We'll bring some folks up. I know the chat's not working, guys. It's being worked on, but we're going to do Q&A. 2 quick questions that I know the community is super excited about. One is kind of the theme of this call and just high level talk. I think Gary and Manny as well, just to touch a little bit on the Macy's collab. I mean, it's not every day someone can just pick up the phone and work with a big brand like Macy's, a nostalgic brand like Toys R Us. It's a big deal. And folks around across the US were able to walk into their local Macy's, Toys R Us, and literally see 10 VeeFriends characters in tangible physical form during the holiday season. I mean, I personally went, I thought it was super cool. And like many other VeeFriends communities, felt proud to see the brand there exemplified. So if you guys, maybe Manny, from a creative perspective, talking about maybe just the thoughts and process of the characters and the looks and why vinyl and plush, and maybe Gary, just the biz dev opportunity. Again, not every day someone can just pick up the phone and like make that happen. And it's just not easy. So I think the community would love to hear those two aspects as it relates to the collab.
Couple things, David, real quick. Everyone, use the regular general Discord chat if you're having chat problems. I'll make sure the dev team is in there helping. I see for a lot of people it's working, or every other post. So we're cleaning it up. Might need some hard resets. I'm not sure exactly, but I just want to make sure that. Obviously, that doesn't affect people coming on stage on video, which we'll be doing shortly. I'll let my main man, Manny, here jump in on the first part of the question.
Yeah, listen, Toys R Us meant the world to me growing up, even until recently. I still love toys. I collect toys. I still design toys. Both for Gary and myself. So this opportunity was something that, I held in the highest regard. And it's also the first, for us, it was the first mass outreach to the overall basic consumer out there. Up until then, the first year of VeeFriends was kind of built around the intangible. It was Gary's, NFT project, and everything was ethereal. Year two was Gary kind of bringing corporeal form to these characters, and they evolved into a more mass market, more of a stereotypical, what you associate with a stereotypical IP. And all our collaborations were kind of like very high fidelity, high profile collaborations. But Toys R Us, Macy's was the first opportunity to reach grandma, to reach mom, to kind of get the target audience that we want to start reaching now and help shaping into a better person for a better world of tomorrow. So the characters that were kind of selected represented the most, important traits that Gary had talked about in the past, but also the ones that were really easy to communicate and reach the mass market consumer. And also the characters that were most visually appealing. We all know kids love gorillas and giraffes, and it was just kind of a natural serendipity there with Toys R Us and their Jeffrey the Giraffe as well. So those are all kind of things that went into informing some of the creative steps we took in developing the work. But also super excited that it was like one of our first. Toys R Us is back. Everybody missed it when they went out of business. It's such a tremendous honor to be a part of their kind of rising out of the ashes.
From my standpoint, we've got such a huge universe of almost 300 characters. We're constantly thinking about, who, what, where. I think Manny spoke on it. I want to get as many questions as possible, so I don't need to over pound this. I think in everything we do, whether it's physical merch, animation, a lot of the stuff that we'll be seeing here in the fall and winter, who's in the book, who's in some of the other things I'm referring to, we have real thought about it. We, like anything in life, we're making a subjective call, right? But we're trying to read the tea leaves. I'll give you a good example. Lately, in my own life, I'm believing more and more in intuition, right? That in 100 years, people will understand much more what the gut was, not just from gut health, but from being an operating system similar to the brain, right, Manny, Daniel? Like, I think that's the thing that I'm getting more curious about. As you can imagine, if I continue on this path, the way I think I've talked about, and so many people here have been on the journey of the things that I talk about, if that starts hitting the level of like my belief in patience, all of a sudden intuitive iguana is going to be more in my subconscious, because I want to get people to talk about this more. And so like, it's a really fun journey over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and then beyond. And it's really fun to have the palette of so many characters, which is unique. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah. One thing that's unusual is that we're doing it kind of real time with everybody who's coming along the ride with us. I've never actually been involved in an IP development process where you didn't have 18 months of development that happened before it was released to the world. And a lot of this lives in Gary's head. So the process is a little different from what is considered stereotypical. But it's still, it's exhilarating to kind of mine Gary for like the kernels that are inspiring each individual character. Characters aren't I think people make a lot of they think that the characters literally represent Gary as a holistic representation. They're not. They're like kernels of Gary's DNA, and they all have their own life outside of that. They all occupy these singular traits and virtues.
I think that's a great call, Manny. Like I have besides Gary B, which is why he was created. It's I believe in patience. I like hardworking wombat, but these, to your point, Manny, these are, and this, Manny's a very aggressive collaborative partner of mine, and May and Tyler and you, Daniel, like these are conversations that are being had. And so Jeremy now on the team, very creative dude, like this is going to be a fun journey. And so, yeah, I don't want, I believe in all nice and positive attributes, but we're going to develop these characters as if, this is more like Wine Library and VaynerMedia, meaning I'm behind the scenes on this. This isn't about my personal brand or things like that.
These characters share your affinity for these traits, but while you're an amalgamation of all those traits, they kind of are like just puzzle pieces.
But when I drew Candid Clownfish, I was still on my journey of not being great at candor. Right. So, these characters are the best version of all these things, including some of the ones that are the bad guys, like that we're going to play with. So, I think that's right. I think these are all attributes that we all aspire. I think everyone wants to be kinder, like a Kadu, or everybody wants to find the right balance, like a beetle. Like these are things that many people around the world are navigating through. And, the character development is so important for the collectible nature of this universe. And there's just a lot of work to do on that front. And it's something that we're really excited about.
Amazing, guys. We're going to move over to some Q&A right now. But Manny, I want to give you the opportunity, a quick final note. As Chief Creative Officer in your team, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes that everyone doesn't get to see, whether it's some of the content that we see on socials, the animations, the storytelling, all that stuff, the stickers on there's so much that goes on that you oversee in the hard work that you and your team do. Just want to give you a moment if you want to touch on just kind of what that process is under the hood, what you're seeing day to day, monthly, et cetera. I think would be really great insight for the community of all the work you do.
Oh, thanks so much for that. Well, again, we're kind of there's so much to do in so little time. Even though this is going to be a 40-year brand, we're kind of doing a lot of things simultaneously. We're kind of mining Gary for his point of view to ensure that the brand is in alignment with what his beliefs were, and continue to be and inform the character growth and development in alignment with Gary's intentions, while simultaneously trying to develop an aesthetic for the brand. Like when I first started, we didn't have an official aesthetic. We didn't have an official look. Nobody had conducted a real study as to what does this represent. So, the first thing you do is like, this is a brand that's born in social. What are some of those elements that can inform the type of fonts we use, the type of holding shapes we use, just so everybody internally and even our outside collaborators can start using symbolism and even a definitive color green that starts making us feel like we are a holistic package and a brand with a solid foundation. And some of those things are being developed simultaneously as we continue to work on a character guide, which is going to be incredibly helpful for all of us to know what was in Gary's head and how that helped inform each individual character. And character guides are, these are I'm going to hold a few up, but like these are some I did at Nickelodeon. You get a toolkit, it kind of walks you through who the characters are. Later on in my career, I started adding quotes. So, collaborators know what these characters would say and they can apply it to t-shirts. I don't know what the average age of our audience is, but maybe you grew up watching some of the stuff I've worked on. I know everybody's heard of SpongeBob, but like every brand has this. Every brand kind of uses this as the foundation for making sure everybody's speaking in alignment. So consequently, every single social media platform, every collaboration, whether it's with an artist or with a company like Mattel, we're just trying to make sure that everything that's put out is kind of talking the same language and visually feels like it's coming from the same place. And it is a little like herding cats because there's so many opportunities and so many plates that are spinning at the same time. But thank you so much for shouting that out, because the entire team works so hard on a daily basis to make sure that we're all being cohesive. And there is so much that people don't see. And there's a lot of stuff that doesn't even make it out that I would love to find like a, start another blog for VeeFriends behind the scenes, because there's just so much fun, interesting stuff that could go out there to be like, oh, they could have done that. That would have been interesting.
Shout out to someone in the chat just said, I want to buy the NFT that gives me 30 minutes access to this guy, Manny. So there you go. I love it.
Manny the Mole. Manny the Mole.
Manny the Mole. There we go. Let's go ahead and get some live Q&A. I know we got Danger Dave in the back. If you want to bring him up here on stage for a question, and then we'll bring some more folks up as well.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Danger Dave here with 5149 Studios. Thanks, Daniel, for bringing me up. Thank you, Manny, for joining us and spending your time with us. And always great to see you again, Gary.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you. I have a two-part question, and it all has to do with around basically, the IP that we've created. The first one has to do with V1s and the different rarities that were created. And I haven't seen, obviously, in the last 2 years, much of a difference in rarities. Anywhere between, the cores all the way up to specs, but especially, epics and very rares and rares, and just kind of want to know kind of what our plans are for the future to kind of separate those rarities. And the second question with that is I've gone to V2 and the supply. Obviously when we put that out, 55,000, you were talking about that, it's about supply and demand, and that, yes, it was a large supply, but you had no problem when you were going to be able to create demand to be able to fill that supply. So now with our ecosystem having over 100,000 tokens, what's our plan to go forward to kind of to help that supply and to create more demand than we actually have supply? And I just appreciate that. And that's from the legendary Lemur yourself, Lemur King.
Thank you, brother. I'll jump in on these. On the rarity side, your point, I thought of them from a sports card standpoint. If you think about like the 1 out of 25, the base cards, all of that supply and demand on a collectible tends to play out over time. If you look at sports cards 2018 to 2020, there was more demand than the base cards. You look at 2023, there's more demand on the rare of 25, the different, tiger stripes or spectaculars or carnival or disco ball, the different versions of panini or tops or things of that nature. So I think over time, and this kind of answers your second question, when you think of it from a collectible standpoint, not from a utility standpoint, right? It's a binary game. You need to create demand for people to want these things, no different than all the stuff behind me and Manny that are hanging here. I believe the demand comes from affinity, like people actually getting close to caring about an athlete or a character. Obviously, to your point, like the ups and downs of the NFT market over the last couple of years are on the macro technology side, similar to what happened with like early internet fever, right? And so this is why this is like fun to talk about, Danger. Like me and Manny have a lot of work to do through these comic books, these toys, these videos, the YouTube Kids strategy. We have a lot of work to do to create that demand. And that's what we spend our time on, right? And so my hope is that through our animation studio with Vaynerchuk, through the work that Manny and I have been putting down on the character guides and things of that nature, that the executions over the next 6 months to 6 years start to create that affinity towards the characters above and beyond the initial demand curve as this goes to the masses. Right now, the NFT ecosystem is so small in comparison to the 8 billion people on Earth, which is why the IP of it all is so darn important. This lives and dies from a demand standpoint based on our execution on trading cards. There was a comment earlier about like Yu-Gi-Oh! And World of Warcraft. I think the way we did the scoring on the compete and collect, I think you'll see those are some of the things I'm alluding to later in the year, early next year. I think everything is going to be factored on our talent to create demand around these characters through character development. So I think Manny's background and point, I'm incredibly empathetic for what anyone internally or externally thinks from a timeline. From Manny's world, he'll tell you everything we're doing is going too fast. From a lot of people that are holding, everything's way too slow. I'm empathetic to all those things, but we're feverishly working on developing the storytelling capabilities by really creating in-depth, like, the Zealous Zombie that's on your shirt right now, truly creating that in a meaningful way that is like a 30-year or 3-year or 3-week execution when we're talking to Mattel or when we're talking to Kith or when we're talking to any company about collaborations is kind of, we're in that process right now. In the short term, things like the Mint Mink getting a utility, things like the surprise utilities that have popped up along the way, and other things that I'm thinking about, that's a separate kind of demand thing that can happen that is based on utility. And this was always the thing I was most excited about. I'm like, oh, there's two levers here. Shit, we got a long time to go to get the lemur that's sitting right there to really, really matter. We've got some really cool like Roger Rabbit stuff, like using my social media to create awareness through me interacting with the characters. You've seen it a little bit in the announcements of, the eruption. By the way, I see someone says Kith. We're talking to every cool brand. I know Ronnie from Kith very well. I think they actually did something with Invisible People, but like, we're talking to Kith, we're talking to Palace, we're talking to Rude. There's no specific thing there. I don't want to create any speculation anymore, as you know, Danger. But, it's kind of like micro, macro. In the macro, Manny and I have to really develop these characters, style guides, all these things. You'll see some executions on IP coming here. Daniel, we have that thing that we've been alluding to with the small business coming up pretty soon, right? Is that this week?
This Friday. Friday, yeah.
Friday, Danger, there's a call with people that own physical locations that is going to speak to something we've been working on for several months. I'm excited.
Trying a partnership.
Exactly. Yeah. We're working on it. There's a lot of energy around the trading cards. There's an execution we're working on that I think will be unveiled at VCon that will become obvious as a place where we're looking to expand the IP. Those are like micro things, but me and Manny have to really develop these characters in a really thoughtful Nickelodeon, Marvel, Disney way if we are ever going to achieve long-term what we're doing. So we're doing that. And then in the short term, I'm thinking a lot about Mink this, or this platform I think is going to really start to show itself post VCon as a trigger to certain holdings and access token gating. We've seen Burn Island create scenarios. Some are direct exchanges for boxes. Some are more sweepstakes oriented, like we're doing right now with 5. You'll see in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different utility aspects to create micro demand. But we're also very aware that macro demand comes from the biggest of executions. We think trading cards will be a big scenario long term. We think some of these other utilities that we can create for the holders in the Mint Mink Burn Island thing will continue to be building. And then the biggest of them all, to your point of like, where does this end up? Manny and I's world and the other people on our team, how we execute the next 36, 72, 144 months is directly going to be the biggest aspect, because that's where you create macro demand. Plus, by the time that happens, I do believe that there will be a more global understanding of NFT utility.
Sure.
And so some of the things like the Burn Island today during a bear market and how many people are in the world versus a Burn Island of equal opportunity and value in 7 years, I think are going to look very different. So we work on that every day, brother.
Sure. And I thank you for answering that. Yeah, and I'll back up and support you and Gary and Manny on that. I've been in Hollywood for over 2 decades, and I understand how long the process takes to actually deliver a final product. It can take years and years and years, sometimes decades. So I understand that. And
we're trying to do both, right? Like I will tell you that our YouTube kids and social media rev up is like been a great thing that we've been investing a lot of time in, like putting this animation's no joke,
right? Right. To do quality.
Correct. And we can flirt, and there's South Park like strategies of quick stuff. Then there's voice. To me, I'll tell you where a ton of time has been spent on that is very behind the scenes from the NFT land right now is the voice. You know this, Danger, based on your background. If I say Porky Pig right now, if I say Bugs Bunny, if I say Batman the Animated Series, if I say Rugrats, the quickness in how you recognize the voice, that's going to be a major thing. And for us to, we need to really do that.
Find that talent, sure. I just want to finish with to give somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say not only talent, think about all the technologies that are brewing right now. There's AI. There's so much.
Make it quicker and cheaper, definitely. Hey, I just want to finish real quick to let somebody else jump on and to say with you about the collectibles, because we've both been in collectibles for a long time now. And that's the real advantage we have now with NFTs is it's the collectibles and the rarities, but now we can add utility to it. And before you couldn't do that with almost all collectibles. The fact that you can add utility is a whole game changer. And so that's where I'd love to see, you know, more
Brother,
in the rarities.
I think that's right. And we understand that to be, you know, I think a lot of people here are very educated. There's also, we need clarity from our government to understand.
Of course. That's why Coinbase is suing right now. So.
I mean, there's a lot, you know, America, there's a lot there that we're also working through. So look, I mean, we're on this every day. We, you know, I think people know we're reading this stuff. I'm reading it like you can't imagine. We want to do great things. Right now, we've got a couple weeks from VCon. We need to make that fucking insane. I mean, please, if you're still on the fence, you need to.
And I'll finish with that real quick because I'm going to leave. Gary, you've said 3 times you're going to be at the Spec Brunch, right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
There we go. Thank you, my friend.
10x to make sure that I stop by.
No problem. I'll make sure to talk to Daniel.
No, I'm making sure Daniel makes sure I'm fucking there. Otherwise, I'm gonna get destroyed.
Hey, it'll be a nice brunch. It is before things the fields gets going anyway.
All right.
All right. You guys take care. Have a great day.
Together. You got it. Let's bring Josh up. I know he's backstage. A special shout out to Dave. Dave putting on the spectacular lunch. If you own a VF1 spec, connect with Dave. Very cool. Josh, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks so much, Daniel. Manny, Gary, I don't know why you can't see me, but unfortunately you can't. Hopefully you can hear me fine.
Mr.
Manny, it's good. Yeah, it's too bad you can't see me. I'm not wearing a Brave Bison shirt here, too. The Brave Bison guy. I actually have. I'm traveling with my family in London right now, and I've been wearing my Brave Bison shirt everywhere. That's just what I do. Okay. My main question. I have a main question and 2 quick little follow-ups. And you kind of touched on it already, Gary, is about personality, like a deep-rooted sort of personality of each of these characters, or at least the characters that you're developing currently.
Yes.
Like my kids are literally sitting 5 feet from me right now watching Shrek.
Yes.
And right, Shrek, we're in London, we have the Shrek thing. Right, Shrek has such a distinctive personality that people can latch on to, connect with, and get emotionally involved with, especially kids as they develop. And I'm just curious about your thoughts on that and the process you guys might be going through to develop these very distinct personalities for some of these characters, more than just their traits.
I think this is when Manny can jump in and speak to why he thinks we're going too fast in a world where on the other side of the market, people are thinking we're going too slow at times. Everyone's got different points of view, but I mean, you're touching on everything. I mean, Manny, give me an example of how long you would want to work on Sweet Swan character development to make that Shrek personality that Josh is talking about. Give me a for instance.
I'd say on average it's 12 months to 18 months. So like SpongeBob, we had 18 months to kind of develop the world. Like the show I sold to NBC, you have 12 to 18 months to develop the world. You start with a foundation of how the world works, what's the verisimilitude of these characters believing that their world works and how they interact with one another. And we're building that as we go, and we're actually bringing everybody along for the ride. But there's still an incredible amount of thoughtfulness that even exceeds what I think normal casting for a character is. Like when we were looking for a voice for SpongeBob, there were certain criteria that it needed to meet, like the sound of innocence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we have an additional layer here that we're trying to have the character's voice not only have just a unique quality, but it should be informed by what that character represents. So, for example, Intuitive Iguana, Gary talks about how, intuition really is like a sixth sense. It's like the Force. It's this thing that's kind of ethereal and spiritual. And those it seems like magic, but it's actually based in science and informed by that. So like the way we cast Iguana was, well, what do you associate in real life with this type of kind of like crystal holding kind of spiritual type hippie type approach? And it's like somebody who's kind of like almost seems a little more like, wow, man, I can see beyond, I have sight beyond sight. And that starts informing how you go about casting the character, because whether you are consciously aware of it or not, there's some, I guess, borrowed equity from pop culture that you start associating certain sounds, certain character voices with the context of the personality and what that represents. So that's it's a quicker shorthand. So if I were to present to you Intuitive Iguana, you hear him talk, you're kind of taking in all that background information that you've gleaned in life, and it helps inform what that character stands for without me having to spell it out. Like you start, he kind of sounds like he's like a little high, or he's a little bit of a hippie, or he's like Shirley MacLaine-ish. And that's all carefully, thoughtfully considered when casting or developing a character.
And just to give you guys some in between, like this is happening all the time with me and Manny. Ready?
Honest,
shows up a ton. Hold on one second. I apologize. I just want to. Right, my phone is completely freaking out.
Yeah, we sit with Gary for hours. We record and we ask him questions.
And then this honest honeybee. A male, just very honest, shows up a ton on telling people why the value truth matters. Can interact a lot with gender. Tier 2, tier 3 kind of character, but honeybees are popular and I think should show up on it. And just a pusher of why honesty is always a good thing. Speaking of which, on your own could be a great friend. So, like, you know, these are like, oh, I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead.
I like that. I like the brainstorming, just kind of coming out there with little snippets of that personality. And as obviously, like as you've always said, we're 2 years into this. We're not 30 years into this, and these characters are going to have these processes. And there's so many of them. I'm eager and excited to sort of watch them grow. You can hear my son yelling for my kid. But my other question is going to be about this stuff, and also slightly personalized, which is, you know, what's a guy got to do to jump in there and help out with some of this writing? Because I am all about this stuff and I love the development of these characters. I mean, I like, you guys know, I've already sort of developed a personality for Brave Bison with my kids and everything like that. And I want to be part of this. I want to help so bad. So,
as you can imagine,
get you guys my Humble Hummingbird song too.
Let me tell you where we're at in that. Obviously, I'm super aware of you, like many of the most active people in the community. I've got to be empathetic to Manny. A lot of what Manny has done with his original team is he's got to really work with, like, he's got a big gig here and he's got to work with, you know, him, like many of us, want to work with people that we've worked with in the past because there's no guessing involved.
Of course.
With the amount of money you have allocated for your department and things of that nature. Look, we're in this forever. I don't want to sit here and say no problem, because Manny may subjectively think that there's 700 writers that are better than you, and that would be unfair to him and it would be unfair to you. Of
course,
when we are further along in this journey, 12, 18 months, you know, you never know where life takes us. Manny may retire and go hula hooping, or he might be here for 30 years. But when, you know, I'll be here, that I can promise you. And like when those opportunities arise, as we go deeper, we're gonna give at bats to the community, but we want the community to understand that we have a requirement to do the best character development, and I have a requirement as a CEO to allow my leaders like Manny to be able to make the subjective opinion that they need to make the best outcome happen. And of course, that's a mitzvah when it could be someone that's part of the community, right? Of course.
Well, listen, I have zero expectation whatsoever. I'm going to keep developing and keep coming up with stuff. I love this community. I love being a part of it. I'm huge in the cards, as you guys I'm sure know. I'm going to keep coming up with songs. I'm going to keep throwing out little snippets of writing.
Are you going to be able to get to to the Sports Card National in Chicago?
I'm like 95% going to be there. So I really want to be there for sure.
Please get there. I really want to see you. We're going to start flirting some stuff there. The card thing is, I mean, it's not going to be surprising to anyone. Obviously, a place that I have a lot of love for and some fun developments. And like, I definitely think, especially if you can bring a little one, there's going to be an interesting activation there. So let me know.
For sure. I'll if I'm there, I'm going to bring the kids. I'll hop off so other people get a chance.
Cheers.
Manny, that Humble Hummingbird, once the intro is in, is coming. The song is coming to you, so you can check it out.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Josh.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's move on to the next question here. Josh, thank you so much. Moral Monkey in the house.
Yeah.
Good to see you. How are you?
Let me try to get my camera here. Maybe it'll turn on, possibly. Yo, what's up?
Yo.
How's it going? You guys hear me?
What's up, G? Brother?
Yeah, man, you too, buddy. So yeah, my question is off the first one. And it's actually a good little segue. I'll make it real quick. But as someone who's staring down like the barrel the last 12 months of watching AI NFTs, like I finally have the tools that I'm like, oh, I could do some really cool stuff that I've had in my head for a long time. Gee, you know that I have a 10-year prior Web2 company and it's in a completely different industry, but it's like looking down the barrel of something that really excites me. And part of me is like, yo, do I want to take a little 3 to 6 month, holiday here and try to really mess with this and play with the stuff I'm making? Because it's like obsessive level, right? But I have 3 people who depend on paychecks, recession, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, as a human, if it was just me, I would wrap it up and be like, all right, I had a good job. I did some good work. It was fun. I helped people. But now I'm on the other side of it. It's like, well, I'm definitely can't do anything because I'm 6 months. I want to keep them through a recession, keep them high and tight. But on the other side of that, how would one, hypothetically for myself and others, how would you gracefully exit or sunset to be like, hey, I just love this. I want to go try this.
You're an epic dude. I love you for this. By over communicating. You know, like when I knew that I was going to go full time to VaynerMedia from Wine Library, I spoke from my best friend Brandon, my cousin Bobby, all the way down to people that we just hired who probably joined Wine Library solely because I was there, and was like, hey, so from 2009 to September of 2011, not January. So from 2009 May to September 2011, I was over communicating that I'm starting this other thing. I'm going to moonlight and work myself hard because I could at that point in my life. I had the energy. I didn't have children yet, or Misha was just born, actually, ironically. But I said, I'm going to be doing these two things, but there is a day in the next year or two where I'm going to be full-time VaynerMedia, not Wine Library. And you're able to do the same thing for the two people that are involved with you.
Yeah. And that's me too, right? No kids. And it's like,
if they want to get another job, which may speed you up, that you don't have to keep it high and tight for 6 months.
Yeah, right. And what do you think that timeline is like professionally? Is that like 3 months? Is that 6 months? And like, what's the stipend look like for exit?
When you give someone 6 months, now you're enabling them to be accountable and on their own 2 feet too. You're not pulling the rug. 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you want to give people as much time as possible. I went 2 years, but don't forget, that was a family business. I had exploded. I was the face. Like, it was and it was 100 people. You're talking about a small group. I think 6 months is incredibly gracious and shows that you're a great man.
Sure. All right. I'll leave it there because I want people to go, but I can't wait to see Moro Monkey dominate everybody, by the way.
Later. All right. We got Tatiana backstage. We're going to bring Tatiana up here for a question. All righty. Good to see you, Tatiana. How are you?
In the chat, everybody.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Hi, Gary. How are you? It's been 1 year exactly since we talked last time, and I'm so happy. And thank you, because Common Sense Cow is in Peru. So thank you for Bet in Latin America. And super excited for that.
It's a good thing for people to hear. A lot of my recent trips were very VeeFriends oriented, not just visiting the offices. So the way I think about VeeFriends in Asia, you can imagine Manny's just trying to get the foundation down. We haven't even talked about interpretation in Japan, right? Back to Latin America. I'm heading to Mexico City here, hopefully in June or July. And, I feel like those are very fruitful markets for a lot of our characters. And some of our characters, when you think about Marvel, as you know this, Manny, given your background, for people listening, there are certain characters that Marvel over market in different parts of the world. When they came out with their 1985 action figures, Superpowers, there were certain characters that were only available in Brazil and Mexico, not in the US. And so we do think globally about this. The chat is fine. Can you jump into chat's working? Daniel, are you seeing this? Like, what are you getting?
Yeah. The good news here, just for context, for anyone that's can hear us or in chat.
It's back up.
NG, this call is being recorded, so everything has been captured smoothly. So we have this captured.
Good. Just good learnings for the dev team to look into that. My plan for everyone, what you missed was Tatiana asked us about what is our strategy for the Spanish-speaking market. Luckily, I got to speak to that a little bit before she even asked it, so she knows it's true. Look, I mean, again, back to us trying to be thoughtful about all the tools that are out here, with captioning, with transcribing, with audio. Like, there's a lot of opportunities, Tatiana, for us to be much more global than people 30, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Even when Manny was in his career at Nickelodeon and Marvel, there was a lot more work to be done to transcribe the content into dubbing it and closed captioning it. Now, with the technologies we have, it's remarkable. And so, literally some of my content, for example, we're going away from closed captioning and putting the written word to working with some startups where my voice is going to be speaking Spanish as if I'm speaking, transcribing my own words. And so we're going to bring a lot of these things to the forefront. And, a lot of what my travels are about right now are business development meeting and really working on creating the strategies for more global executions and global expansion.
And by the way, there is a lot of people like me in the community who watched for the first time a VeeFriend and at the same time get inspired to create more art like me. And it's fantastic. So thank you for that too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Yes,
so much,
Paul,
Tatiana.
is in the mix. Want to make sure
Fantastic.
that's working for people. If everyone can just jump on chat real quick. I just want to, because it got quiet in the chat. I just want to make sure this is going. Yep. Okay.
Cool. Perfect. Let's move over to Dalton. Dalton, thanks.
Yo.
Dalton, what's good, brother?
How are you? All my homies in the chat. I can't wait to see you at VCon, bro. It's so exciting. So I got a couple of questions. One, I noticed a couple months ago, or maybe it was before that, but if you go to the Discord, if you look all the way in the top left, you see that all the characters in the little banner are all the Macy's characters. But there's one adaptable alien in there that's not a Macy's character. Is there any, and in the background of this video, you see there's also a Hungry Hammerhead. Is there any alpha we got going on with why those two are in there?
No.
I could talk to that. That's a pattern that is, see, again, we're bringing everybody along for the ride as we build in real time. And that pattern was created around the Macy's, around the time of the Macy's partnership, but with the intention that we were going to add as many characters as possible. But there is a certain threshold that you can only have so many vector characters before the file collapses. So we have swapped in some characters here and there depending on the event, just so there's or to fill in a certain space or hide a certain repetition or seam. But that's unfortunately somewhat dictated by the limitations of technology.
Gotcha. Okay, and then I guess, Gary, something for you is, with like Halloween coming up, is there any talks about making like Halloween costumes for kids, like for like the Zella zombie, like we saw on Danger's shirt and things like that?
I've had 4 meaningful conversations about it, including things that we were thinking about executing last year that we did not do. Halloween, if you notice, there's a lot more characters around Halloween in this collection than there is around Christmas, other things. That wasn't by accident. I view Halloween as a huge opportunity to expand this IP. We've been working on very, very meaningful conversations to be very overly transparent, to not create speculation. There was something that was locked for 23 that we've decided now to do for 24 because it's gotten bigger and better and we want to do it more right. So yeah, Halloween is a passion of mine. I think it's the true global holiday in a way that people don't understand. Back to Spanish-speaking Mexico, like there's some exciting things around this. So it's a category we continue to explore. So to answer you directly, yes. To answer you more directly, there may not be Halloween costumes this year if the biz dev on that front, which is active with one company, doesn't materialize. So it's kind of where that's at, brother.
Patience,
But it's also like, yes, patience, because I can throw that around all I want, but like to answer you more directly, to bring value to this chat, like Halloween is a priority. That's why we created the characters, so many of them. There's a reason that it was the first mini drop. There's like a lot to it.
Okay, and then before I go, just because you were talking about like voiceovers and voices for actors and things like that, if I can, I just got to plug my guy Danny Meadows. Got to be the Kiwi. It's got to be the Kiwi.
That becomes, or the Caterpillar, which I know, and I'm actually speaking. Like, again, as you can imagine, this is conversations we've had at nausea because there's so many people that everyone on this call can speak to as like, oh, it's got to be Jeremy for this, or
of course
Danny for that, or Dalton for this. Manny's big challenge is the passion that me and May and Andy and John Troutman and Jeremy and others have for, hey, it's got to be Danny, versus Manny saying, my remit is to make this character of par of the places I've been. And hey, Gary, Danny does not have the voice. Dalton does not have the voice for that. And so I just want the reason I'm answering it that way, Dalton, is I want everybody here to know, like, I want nothing but awesome for everyone, we have a responsibility. And like, of course, if there's a tie goes to the runner, and in this make pretend story, Danny is just as good as Johnny, and we are deciding between, well, that becomes easy. But if there's 77 voices on earth that are 4 trillion times better than Danny or Dalton, well, we have to, we have a responsibility.
Also, Manny, just quickly before I head off, my cousin, what if you know Jake and the Neverland Pirates? It's like a
Yeah,
of course.
So he was a voice actor for that, so I'd be more than happy to connect if that's even an option.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Which character?
He was Cubby.
Cubby. Oh wow. How old is he? How old is he now?
A little bit younger than me, probably 22, 23.
Oh man, time flies.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. But I'd be more than happy to connect you guys if that's something you're looking to do.
I'll see you at VeeCon, brother.
Yeah, so excited.
Thanks, Dalton. All right, we're going to move over to Daniel, who's coming out from Germany. Daniel, thanks for being patient. We're bringing you up right now. There he is. Daniel, how are you? What time is it over there?
Wait 1 second, my video. Yeah, hi.
Ah,
Hi, Gary. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again.
great to see you again, and thank you so much for the added guest. That's a great addition to this.
Well, we have 2 added guests here.
Oh my God. Hi. Amazing. Amazing.
The VeeFriends family.
So
well,
good.
thank you so much for coming to Germany last year.
Of course.
It was a big community meetup, and everyone enjoyed your time.
Thank you.
It was so good. Yeah, and I have a question about internationals, like someone just asked before. And, you know, it's a global brand already, and we're really excited about this. And since you know there's really active communities out there, what is the plan for like, I know like you talked about like the tech is evolving, you can have subtitles and everything, but like will the VeeFriends have like ambassadors across the globe? Will there be people representing it? Like what is the goal there?
Yeah, I think this will make sense to you. Right now this is like a foundational year, right? We wanted to get the character developed. There's been so much behind the scenes. I thought it was very healthy for people. You can imagine I'm sitting in the middle of what Manny is communicating to me of like the standards he's looking to uphold in our partnership, and then the community. Manny literally says, I want 12 to 18 months per character. There's 275 the community, like think about that. So this year was about speeding up the ability because I can't do that because we've got to build out a bigger team, more infrastructure, but we've been working on that. Then there's the tech, as you can see, we're still working on some of the kinks on this, Burn Island, some other things of that nature. But once we have the character development, as you can imagine, the ambassador stuff and the strategies start to become very real. I showed my hand a little bit here when I talked about certain characters developing in certain markets.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about Germany, where I know we have a strong foothold, it's also a company that VaynerX is probably going to open an office in soon, which will allow me to go there more often. We're there. When we think about ambassador, first I want to know which 4 or 5 characters I may want to build in that region, specifically to that region. Which one of our characters have a German accent? These are real things. So forget about English transcribed AI-wise to German, so you know that it's Practical Peacock. I'm talking about what if Practical Peacock actually was a German immigrant in the U.S. So we are really deep in it, and I think all the things you just mentioned will come, including why I was in Tokyo, why I was in Amsterdam, and why I'll be in Mexico City, including local business development. Toys R Us, Macy's is America, right? Obviously some international shipping, but as you know, there's incredible, brands and companies in Germany and all over the world. Tokyo, as you can imagine, a very big part of my strategy, how people collect and character development in that region. So this goes pretty deep. Like just for instance, we may meet with like a consumer product company in Germany, like a candy bar that's only in the German market, that we may do a biz dev deal with a character like we did with the Mary Ruth organic vitamins. Why am I not seeing this? There we go. Like this anteater play, these are all like test things we're doing to lay down the foundation. So I think all those things will be real. And then there's official, unofficial things like fan club or ambassadors, you and Katie in England for the meetup. Like there's people emerging within the community, and I'm very hopeful over the next 3 to 5 years there's opportunities for us to do more things with community members that become full-time employees like Jeremy did, or relationships we have around the globe that we activate. And even if we don't do it officially, I think there's an enormous amount of unofficial stuff that's happening here, community building, today, for example, is a good preview to a big strategy of mine with Meet.VeeFriends. Like there's a lot that can be done here. Look at how well this is going. I can be more accessible. There can be events that have individuals that don't even have me involved, token gated, promotion for months in advance to create demand for people that may want to move their V2 or access token, things like that. So I'm very excited. We're working here. We're listening to the feedback. There's certain things we want to do that we're hearing from the feedback. There's certain things we can't do. There's certain things we have to wait for legal clarity. There's certain things that we don't want to do because I don't want to. Like there's a lot of that kind of stuff, but that's kind of where we're at, my friend.
When other events are happening, like NFT Paris or NFT like London or whatever, will VeeFriends be represented there by themselves, or do you have like community members? You give them a short contract or some legals that they represent VeeFriends?
We think about it constantly. Not only do we think about it from an NFT NYC in Paris and LA thing, we think about it from a Comic-Con, the Sports Card National. We're spending an enormous amount of time on that. We're building out, more behind the scenes. We're building out our booth production right now, the booths that go to some of these Comic-Cons and sports stuff. Yeah, absolutely on our mind. But again, I think to the question, I'm not going to be crippled if we don't over-activate at NFT NYC this June. Mm-hmm. I am a seasoned executive who wants to build this in a manner that I think makes sense. And I think I'm making those subjective decisions. Whether people agree with me or not, I have so much empathy for. But, whether we officially activate there, what infrastructure are we, you can imagine, Daniel, okay, so we decide not to activate in Paris. It's not very hard for me to go into Discord and get tons of people to go there. The question is, am I putting them in the best position to succeed? Am I putting the brand in position to succeed? Do I really know these individuals? Do I want to give them the liability? What's going on from a legal standpoint? For example, France, not so easy to hire people on a contract. I don't know if you've heard how France does business. So there's a lot of things that seemingly seem obvious or easy, but might be a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, it makes sense. We're in the bear market of Web3. It makes sense that you expand on the IP company and not on the Web3 part at the moment.
Though we're working on Web3 stuff, but to your point, what I definitely have to do is I need to stay on the mission that I originally created, which is provide value on the upfront things that I provided. I think where I've made missteps is get too excited in Discord, where I'm making, hyperbole statements that I'm excited about in the moment. I think I've cost us and me and the brand detriment that people rightfully hang on to, and over time I'll be able to fix that is my great dream. But as you can imagine, I don't want to create more of those vulnerabilities, which has really dictated a lot of my behavior over the last 9 months.
Awesome.
But Mike, in wrapping up, my commitment to this project is unparalleled, and I appreciate your support, and so wonderful to see your family. And Manny, thank you for being such a meaningful part of our team, and everyone in the chat, thank you for the feedback. I think you could expect more type of things like this from us. And I hope everyone's super well. And I cannot wait to see anyone who's coming to VeeCon at VeeCon. And I can't wait to innovate on Meet.vf and other in-person things like the Surprise London meetup or a Burn Island access thing or whatever might happen. Like we've got so many more journeys and years together, and most of all, staying on topic, we are very seriously developing characters over here, not no bullshit. It's not me and an intern. We've got seasoned vets and seasoned teams and project managers, and we're taking this serious. And I hope you got value from this. I'm going into a very important meeting right now, but I'm going to read the general chat on Discord. So if anybody wants to give feedback to this, what they liked about it, that would help me. And we'll see you soon. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you,
your family. Thank you, Daniel and Marianne.
Nice seeing you all.
Cheers, everyone. We'll see you all soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Gary, thank you again.